Hi, and welcome to week 2 of Introduction to Sociology on our online class. This week's topic is culture, one of my favorite topics. There's just so much to culture. And remember, this is just an introduction to sociology. There's many classes on culture, Southern culture, that you can take as you further, if you're more interested in sociology. But culture is not just, a lot of people think culture is race or ethnicity or country that you're born in, and it's so much more than that. Culture is based on values and beliefs. When I want to get to know somebody and a little bit more about their culture, I ask questions as, what are some of your family traditions? Thanksgiving, how do you spend Thanksgiving? Do you do turkey? Do you do ham? Do you fry it? Does a big family? Is it a small family gathering? Do you go out to dinner? Do you cater it? Those are simple questions, but it is part of the culture. Christmas. How do you celebrate Christmas, or do you celebrate Kwanzaa, or do you not even celebrate Christmas? Is there something else? It can be part of religion. It doesn't have to be. How do you spend holidays? What do you do for the July 4th holiday? Do you even celebrate different holidays? A lot of times Christmas. Many people talk about Christmas. They celebrate Christmas, but it's very different. Some open Christmas presents on Christmas Eve. Some do it in the morning. Some do it right when they get up. No opening gifts till later. We only spend $10. We only pick one person in the family. There's just so many traditions and culture and values and beliefs. A couple of things that I really want to talk about, some of the definitional words that I really want you to get to know, and I want to give you some examples in real life. So cultural universal. Cultural universal is something that you are going to find in every society around the world. It doesn't matter where you live. These big structures are family, marriage, education, government, arts, entertainment, games, how people spend their free time. So this is universal, but they're very different wherever you go. So then you have ethnocentrism. Ethnocentrism is judging another culture. So here in the South, we have sweet tea. If you've grown up in the South, you know about sweet tea. Sweet tea is the best. There's nothing better than sweet tea. You go up north, out west, and say, hey, can I have some tea? You order tea. It comes to the table. You take a drink, and you're like, oh my gosh, where's the sugar? And they look at you and go, it's on the table. And you just think that's just wrong. What's the matter with you? I have a video of one of my favorite movies, My Cousin Vinny, that I'm going to be uploading also on Moodle, that will give you some examples of ethnocentrism. Wrong side of the road. We say over in England or in Europe, they drive on the wrong side of the road. Well, that's judging. We're automatically saying, we have it right. We drive on the right side of the road, literally. And everything else is wrong. Well, it's not wrong, but that's where ethnocentrism falls under. Cultural imperialism. This is when you try to push your culture onto another. Your culture is better, and we try to push it onto them. An example is, I know that there is an Amish community in Yadkin County. And traditional in Pennsylvania, Amish, no electricity, no vehicles, the clothes. And so if you went to visit, and let's say that Bernie and Alfred went to visit the Amish culture, and they saw that a lot of the kids, they didn't have Playboys or PlayStations, Game Boys, Xboxes, and so they go gather that up and they take that up there. These poor kids, they're deprived. They don't have this. Well, that's kind of not purposely, but trying to push your culture onto them. The Native American Indians, when the Europeans came over, and as we moved out, and so They felt that the Native American Indian children needed to go to regular schools and boarding schools. They took them away from their families to teach them the right way, the right culture. That's an example of cultural imperialism. Cultural relativism is accepting the culture, not judging against it. Uh, when I was 12, I lived in Haiti. My father was building a hospital, and I had a pet goat. And so that pet goat was great. About 3 weeks in, I named it. I think I named it Freddie. I don't know why, but I named him Freddie. And it was around Christmas time. We went to church. I came home, went out to the backyard, and my goat was hanging from a tree. They were dressing the goat. That was going to be Christmas dinner. Nobody informed me that we would be eating the goat. Part of the culture. That was a huge deal if you got to have goat. Now I'm going to have to admit that goat is actually very tasteful. It's actually good, especially barbecued over a grill, open fire. I just kind of accepted it. I did eat the goat. I just never named any other pets like a goat or anything like that, because when it was time for dinner, what are we having for dinner? Freddie. Don't want to do that again. But I did accept that. I also was in a little bit of a culture shock when we first moved there. The culture there was females stayed in the house, wore dresses. They were not allowed to play soccer or games with the boys. Coming from America, the States, I had been on a soccer team and a softball team, and it was very difficult to adjust to that, and I was going through culture shock. It was very hard. And so those are a couple of words and examples of those. Another part of culture is norms. You have informal norms and formal norms. I think of normal. What do we expect? What does your culture, what does society and your culture expect from behavior? Almost every behavior that we have in society is learned. Formal norms are norms that are written down. And now, norms, expectations, mores that I'll talk about, folkways, all of these. So this is, a lot of them are kind of fluid. They will change over time. What's acceptable, what's not acceptable in our culture. As time goes on, some become more acceptable. Informal norms are, there's not really a written rule, you're not going to get a ticket. And I'm going to give you an example. Seatbelts were never a big thing. Now, your generation, seatbelts, there's always been a law, probably since you were born, and you have to wear a seatbelt. But that's a norm now. And it can be sanctioned. Sanction is, how do we get people in society to follow these norms? And so the sanction is, you can get a ticket. And it depends on how harsh the sanction is of whether it will correct our behavior. I hated wearing seatbelts, never wore seatbelts even after they make the law. When they made the law, it was only a $25 fine. I was like, it's cool, not worth it. Here's your $25. I'm good. If I got another one, here's your $25. Well, then they raised that, and the last seatbelt ticket I got many years ago cost me $250, court cost and all that. Now, all of a sudden, that sanction is a little bit too much for me. That formal sanction, I now put my seatbelt on every time I get into the vehicle. And so sanctions are how we get people to follow the norms of society, the beliefs, the values of that culture. Mores, I think of morals. What's right, what we consider as acceptable, what is moral. Committing murder, that falls under a more, and it is very punishable. It's just not accepted. And I don't think that's ever changed. But think about, so we have that, but then you want to think about, is murder okay if a father kills somebody who molested their daughter? What about murder in wartime? Is that considered murder? And so, kind of looking at those sanctions, what is acceptable now? Folkways is more informal again. Folkways are just things that you've been taught. Um, Use your napkin. Sit at the table. Don't climb on the table when we're out at the restaurant. Don't pick your nose in public. If you're standing in line, don't jump up in front of the line and butt in front just to put your groceries down and think that you're going first. Um, you're going to be sanctioned. Now, some of these are more informal sanctions. You're not going to get a ticket for jumping in line. Um, Eye contact is a folkway. We would give eye contact. It used to be giving handshakes when you met somebody. So some of those have also changed. It's not as common. Now, if how do we change that behavior? How do we make sure that people follow the folkways that are out there in your culture? You might get a dirty look if you get in front of somebody. Or somebody actually might say, hey, get out of line, you're in line. The line starts back there. And it's kind of shameful, so we kind of changed that behavior for the norms. And that's how we keep people following the norms of our culture. Subcultures and countercultures. Countercultures is your topic for discussion this week. Subcultures. Subcultures are, you have people that's part of the regular culture every day, the families, but then they step out of that and come together for a common unity. I don't know if you've ever heard of the band The Grateful Dead. They were around 70s, 80s. A subculture for them was, they're called the Deadheads. They would follow the band around the country. They had their own culture, the way of life. Now, if you look up videos and look up the Grateful Dead, these were not all just hippies. These were bankers, lawyers, teachers that would leave their regular culture and come into the subculture and participate in that. LGBT is another subculture, participating in pride parades. Pottermania is a subculture. The Harry Potter coming together and kind of acting out or being part of that. Countercultures are more of, and I'm not going to give you a whole lot because that's what you need to look up. Countercultures do not really follow the rest of the rules and the norms. Survivalists and ravers are two examples. So that's this week, and it's kind of an overview, quick overview of culture. The rest is in your book. If you have any questions, again, don't hesitate to send out a chat, add in discussions, send an email. I would recommend not jumping in and doing the test immediately. Give it some time, kind of check out your vocabulary words before you take the quiz. So that's the end of week 2 video lecture. Check out My Cousin Vinny. I think you might enjoy that. And have a great night.